Mulțumim mult, Daniela Iliescu și invitații noștri. Continuăm discuțiile cu o companie listată și nu oricare, ci reprezentanții celei mai mari companii listate pe piața aero. Așadar, îl invit alături de noi pe Peter de Boer, CEO DN AGRAR. Welcome! Și cu aplauze. Mulțumim! Okay, well, I will try to sit closer, maybe. So, as mentioned, DN AGRAR got to become the largest listed company on the aero market in just 3 years or so. How does it feel? Let's start with that.
It's working, yeah. No, I don't know. It feels quite special, of course, especially when we go back when we got listed. We got listed 2 weeks later. Putin started his aggressive war in Ukraine, and of course, as all our eggs, or the most eggs that we have, let's say, to have in one basket on a stock exchange in a foreign country from your, of course, it was shocking, and you think like, okay, how are we going to manage this? We had significantly increase. Of course, we had inflation, mainly due significant increase in gas prices, etc., electricity prices. But so far, it goes quite well. Since listing, we are only three and a bit years listed, 300% growth in our share price. This year, we have a share price growth of around 90%. And to give you a perception, when we got listed, we're relatively small. We had different groups of investors. At that time, when we got listed, we had a valuation of around 18 million. And currently, we have almost a market cap of 100 million euros. And in the coming years, we will do significant investments. That I think in 2030, we just announced our new development strategy. For sure, we will be somewhere between 200 and 300 million euros of market cap. So far, it is really a success story, but it's also really hard work, and you need to have a clear strategy to reach it, because there are not many examples of companies where it is such a constant success. So it is not that simple, let's say.
Exactly, and in the previous panel, entrepreneurs discussed the number of shareholders, and yeah, indeed, after being a close family business to having thousands investors, it's a difficult, it's a change. It's difficult to manage communication with 3,000 shareholders, but when did you feel as a business that was time to go through this process of an IPO? And you missed the private equity part, let's say. You jumped into a listed company role.
No, we had discussion in the past with private equity as well, and it was really interesting to hear, although we are really happy that we didn't go in that direction. But my father, for instance, there was not a succession plan. For instance, my brother and my sister and I, we were all living in the Netherlands, and he had attracted Dutch investors when he started to invest in Romania. Before, he had investors in Germany as well. And always the agreement was that they would make an exit after 10 years. So the first natural step was to discuss with private equity. He discussed with a fund from Finland, I think, and with some local funds. But of course, you need to give up your majority shareholding. And private equity, I think it really depends on what type of company you are, what level of organization you are, how corporate you are, how professional your finances are, etc., and reporting. If you have a clear strategy, what was just mentioned, and are you able to present that? But I would, from our experience, if you have confidence in yourself and if you have clearly knowledge about your own business, I would always advise go for an IPO and go for a listing, because there are success stories with private equity, but there are also a lot of failures in this regard, and it take. To a certain degree, could take over your business. At least it was in our discussion. They would also take over. We would remain with 20% or something. You have a strict reorganization, etc. So we didn't. My father didn't came to a deal. Then he came to me. He said, "No, another option could be listing it." Then he still could kept his promise, so that the other Dutch investors could make an exit. So we discussed it together. Thought, okay, that's a nice adventure. And that was the main reason we listed, and we raised first 5 million euros in 2 days. Then we did some M&As, and that was part, of course, of the fast growth. Especially that we also designed a strategy. So we made sure that we started already to do extra investments or to increase investments prior to listing, so we could ensure, and especially as an agri-food company, it's hard to grow fast and to grow faster than IT companies, especially. But so far we succeed, so that you can grow every quarter, let's say. And so far we succeed to do that. And that's extremely important, especially the perception on the aero market is not always that positive. There are a lot of companies, they announce a memorandum and they don't stick to their results. So there's a lot of skepticism when a company enters the local market, and especially the aero market. So you need to convince investors. And we started with 150 investors. At the moment we have over, I think, 3,600. And we are B2B. So also no one knew us. So it took a lot of effort to be visible. It's important to have a media strategy to build up a strategy with the media. In the past, we had a policy that we never gave interviews, and we had amazing figures, and we thought, how is it possible that it's not picked up by the media? Now, of course, that you always refuse to talk to us, so you need to go to events, and but for that you need to have a good organization, a good management team, to be able to report every quarter. I mean, we finish to write one quarter, we publish it, and my team starts to write the next quarter, to have accurate data, to have not mistakes over there, to be challenged for your investment decisions. Because first you have your IRR, etc. internally. Now we need to share it. Now, that is something else. You get a certain question. So that's extremely important. And we have quite an aggressive investor relations strategy, I would say, but in a positive way of the word. We are extremely visible. In the beginning, I was also a bit ashamed from it to be so many times with my face in the newspaper. But now I do it without any shame, because we see, especially in a market where there's low liquidity, you fight with a few companies for the liquidity in the market. But it's really important to be visible, to repeat constantly your story, and to have this clear strategy, and in the meantime also to deliver. But what our shareholders especially value a lot, I think, and the majority, we have retail investors at the moment, is to constantly repeat what you're doing. If something goes differently or whatsoever, to explain why things are going differently, and to be extremely visible. And today, if you look to the liquidity of our stock, we easily compete with the top 20 performing companies on the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange, and that's of course the next step.
We are very proud to have been contributing to your story. We started cooperating almost 6 months after you got listed, and it took us all together maybe 1 year to reach a first level of visibility, because your business model is a B2B model. So people don't see your products on the shelf. It was quite hard hard. It was a challenge, right, in this area. But 3 years later, I think the results are there, because you were very consistent and very ambitious, and we always give you as an example of the work ethics, right? It's not like, oh, I work on Monday and maybe Wednesday, right? No, I work every day, 18 hours a day, right? What is next in the capital markets for you?
No, yeah, it's good to mention. As I mentioned, we had significant results. We had 100% growth here, 50% growth there, and it was not seen in the share price. Only when we published, and then of course we jumped back we fell back to the introduction price. And yeah, I'm really happy with our collaboration, and you brought a lot of structure into that, and especially to repeat constantly the story, because after 5 times telling the same story, I thought, okay, now they get it. And I value highly our investments, don't get me wrong, but they need a lot of repetition, let's say, before it catches on in their heads to stick to DN AGRAR. Now the next step is, of course, to do the upgrade to the main market. We are more or less ready in it. We are now finalizing IFRS. We need to do some corporate governance updates. For the main market, you need to have an audit committee, a remuneration committee, and some other committees. Of course, ESG will be published already, but we didn't audit it so far. That we will do as well. And normally, we aim as a management team to do the upgrade to the main market either Q4 next year or Q1 2027. And I think it's quite promising. We started the discussions to have with the large pension funds and institutional investors. Even last week, we attracted, we had already some institutional investors, but we were now able to attract one of the larger and leading institutional investors in Romania to enter our company for 2%. And we are really happy to this and extremely proud, because this fund generally doesn't invest on the aero market. And we haven't even finalized our IFRS implementation, so that it shows a clear commitment for the coming years, where we have a huge diversification strategy. Of course, we signed a contract with Black Sea Oil and Gas for the largest biomethane production facility, reduction of emission with 90%. And what I'm extremely proud of, I would say, is even also we see now the difference in our management team, because you need to grow fast. And I took over CEO position in June, the 1st of June. But we have also since then a new CFO, we have a new COO. They are all were grown into, they are for over 10 years at DN AGRAR. It's completely gender balanced. I'm also extremely proud of that. In my first term, to have 50% women, 50% men in the management team. And to give you an example, our agricultural director is a woman. Also our CFO. So the C-level functions, they're even leading on that behalf. And they are growing fast as well. So it's a really nice journey. If you want to optimize your business structure, your company structure, to become from a family business or a private business to become more of a standardized corporate structure, I think this is the way to achieve that goal. It's the professionalism significantly increased, and also the challenge that you challenge every time: is this the right investment? Is this the way how I gain most value? Because it's a dynamic market to maintain your investors, and that's extremely important, because the funds, they especially look to your liquidity of your stock and growth, etc. But it's extremely important to have high liquidity in your stock if you want to get them on board.
Yes, you synthesized very well, you summarized very well the fact that if you want to keep control as a family business, the exit route through the stock market is the most appropriate one. We also advise this to companies. What is important to mention is not to list too early, and I think in your case was a good moment of internal organization that allowed you to grow. And the aero market is especially flexible for growth companies, so not rushing to the main market is also important. I would close maybe with an advice from you. You are originally in the agriculture sector. You are slowly moving to a combination of energy and other type of activities. Maybe an advice to other entrepreneurs who are in the agriculture or they are pursuing this listing path?
No, mainly you need to have a strategy and a realistic strategy. It's extremely important to deliver results in the first few years, especially as I mentioned on the aero market, investors are skeptical. So what you need to do is a clear communication strategy. Make sure when you send out press releases that the media picks it up, etc. So build up that media relationship. For that you need to have a good organization to have time to be the face of the company and to go to all these events, because, as I said, visibility is extremely important in the beginning, and still, I almost travel every 3 days. And to give you an example, this year I went only 1 weekend on holiday to Mallorca, and I went 1 weekend skiing, and for the rest so far I haven't been able, because you have this quarterly reporting, etc. Now, where we're growing the team, we try to make also other employees in the company more visible. So I hope maybe next year or in 2 years I can go for 1 or 2 weeks on a longer holiday. No, but extremely it's important strategy, seniority of your team to really monitor and standardize all your processes. We implemented SAP or an ERP system. We standardized through all the companies the processes, that you have no mistakes or big errors or major errors in your financial data or other results. But mainly it's a clear strategy and achieve it and communicate. Don't be afraid to communicate with investors. And on that behalf, I think there's a lot of growth possibilities on the Romanian market. If you look to, we really try to stand out. If you look to our financial reports, our communication channels, videos,
Investor Day.
Investor Day. We had this year the largest capital market event of whole Romania in Alba Iulia, in the middle. I hope no one watched from Alba Iulia, but it's somehow in the middle of nowhere. But also there we have investors from, so really appreciate it. But we had over 150 participants. All the major banks were there, major funds were there, retail investors, most of the media was there. So it was a huge success to get all those people over there.
Plus the awards. I mean, you have to travel to pick up awards from time to time.
No, most proud, of course, we won also a lot of local awards. That's nice as well. But I'm most proud of is that we, I think in the second year of listing, we won. We were selected in the top 5, shortlisted, yes, of the European Investor Relations, together with Banca Santander, the largest bank in Europe, Banca Caixa, also a huge bank, and there was an Austrian and a German company, of best retail strategy. Now, I mean, for a secondary market listed company, we were the first time and ever a Romanian company was selected on it. Yeah, it made me really, really proud, especially at that time we were responsible for that. But yeah, to summarize, it's have a clear strategy, make sure you start investments on time so you can deliver growth, and especially for agriculture companies, they're CapEx intensive, so it takes time to execute these kind of projects. So you really need to plan ahead to be able to at least sustain every year growth. And then you can have beautiful gains. I mean, if I remember what my father was negotiating with private equity and the wealth that we are creating, because you want to grow, of course, but it's also nice that you gain some wealth for your family. It's a complete different story.
Congratulations and thank you very much for the partnership and all the great successes in the capital markets. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you too.